Shalom, shalom. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Terumah, we read how the people of Israel were called upon to build the tabernacle and the ark that will house the 10 Commandments. The antechambers of the tabernacle are also described as a sanctuary for God to dwell in. The construction includes specifications calling for various exotic materials, including gems, carved woods, luxurious fabrics, artistically woven curtains, and precious metals such as gold, silver, and copper. Tasked to our forebearers, the dimensions and measurements for construction are exact and specific. This is the first finite architectural description for our people and the first descriptions of artistry, wood carving, gilding, and work with precious materials. In Exodus 25, verse 17 of this week's Torah portion, the text calls for the ark cover with Ve'asita koperet zahav tahor, translated into English, and you shall make an ark cover of pure gold. This week, our Torah portion is the bedrock for Jewish expressions in art, woodworking, architecture, and design. It may surprise many, but there is a deep running tradition and current of our people with art, woodworking, architecture, and design. The verses from this week's Torah portion encapsulate the first iteration of these sciences, but it would not be our last. Eventually, the synagogues of ancient Israel would mirror the thought that went into this week's Torah portion. Ancient synagogues such as Dura Europos of Syria during the Roman period were vibrant, full of color and full of life. They included zodiac symbols and human forms in their interior prayer spaces. Diaspora Judaism would eventually bear some awe-inspiring, beautiful synagogues, and they included the glorious wooden synagogues of Poland. Tragically, during the Holocaust, all of the wooden synagogues and arks were destroyed in Europe by 1945. Last year, I set upon the monumental task of rebuilding one of the great wooden arks from one of the perished wooden synagogues of Europe and embarked upon the opening the Ark project of Cincinnati. The Ark, now rebuilt and standing proudly inside of the Skirball Museum of Cincinnati, was one of the jewels of world Jewry. Towering and coated in vibrant colors, it stood in Sidra, Poland, but it was destroyed by the Nazis in 1942. With Polish, Sephardic, Ashkenazi, and Russian influences, it testified to a Jewish dialogue and to a Jewish mastery of art, artistry, and carpentry. Included on the ark itself are the motifs of this week's Torah portion, and the ark includes the 10 Commandments, the cherubim gildings of precious metals, and the assumed figure of Moses. Embroidered in Hebrew above the opening that houses the Torah scrolls is the first verse from the second aliyah of this week's Torah portion, and translated from Hebrew read, "And you shall make an ark cover of pure gold." The ark from Poland has now been restored to the beautiful piece of art that it once was. The story of the ark's rebirth is fascinating. Yet it is the story of a community of people that is most touching and inspiring. The project was not financed, built, or envisioned by one person. There was a board, a team of volunteers, and close to a dozen organizations that all pitched into the project. Nevertheless, the details of the opening the Ark project mirror the text of our Torah reading from this week. Imagine again the text from our Torah reading. Two aspects brought the Ark and the tabernacle into tangible existence. First, material support was needed to drive the projects. The people of Israel donated in abundance the materials needed to construct the ark and the Mishkan, the tabernacle. They brought gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and red dyed wool, goat hair, spun linen, animal skins, wood, olive oil, herbs, and even precious stones for their construction. Second, there was community and leader-driven support for the projects. A team of priests serviced the ark and the tabernacle, while another team of artisans would convene tasked with creating the blueprints of the projects and of the greater community. They participated in the monumental effort of our people to build the physical spaces of the ark and the tabernacle, the Mishkan, in harmony and tandem with one another. The project of creating the ark and the tabernacle was a monumental communal task for antiquity. It begot a sort of holy union between leadership teams and a community. Without the support of both, there would be no artisans, no gold, no silver, and no priests. There would be no ark and no tabernacle, no Mishkan for our people. So too, the opening the Ark project of Cincinnati necessitated a community leadership-centered holy union. Financial support was provided by several national and local Jewish and non-affiliated organizations, while the team of volunteers and skilled laborers spent day and night working on the various stages of the Ark's construction. For the community leadership team, the excitement was not merely generated around rebuilding a perished item. It was about community, of creating personal relationships. Everyone involved with the project felt an emotional bond, not chiefly to the Ark, but to each other. When I reached out to donors, I asked how they were managing with COVID-19. When they spoke with myself, they wanted to know how my family was doing. When one of the volunteers needed help moving into his new apartment, we all pitched in to help him with the moving process. Relationships were formed and bonded. A community grew resting upon the same empathy, compassion, and dedication that pulled ourselves to rebuild a lost treasure of our people. Today, we sit apart from one another. Families have been separated, and many have not been able to see loved ones for quite some time. However, what is it that has brought us here together today? Is it an ark? A sanctuary? Is it a physical space? Clearly, as important as our physical spaces may be, our connections extend beyond the physical realm. The building of our community has drawn us to be with one another here today. It is the call of love, unity, community, God, and spirituality of Judaism that glue us together. These qualities are needed today more than ever before. The experience of living under COVID-19 for a year now has accelerated many trends. We now, more than ever before, live in a world where we have developed speed, but we have quite literally shut ourselves in. Technology and the internet gives abundance, but has left us with want. Our knowledge has often made us cynical, our cleverness often hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than technology, today we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life may be violent and much may be lost. Zoom has brought us closer together here today. The very nature of this invention cries out for the goodness in humanity. It cries out for universal friendship, for the unity of us all. Even as we sit in different states, we are brought together in one room today. Over this past year, it is easy to imagine that the absence of human touch has driven many to brutality. Cruelty, violence, and desperation may thrive under such conditions. Poor leadership and greed may easily monopolize our desperation, manipulate and delegate us, and turn our world into a power keg of violence. Nevertheless, we must remember we are not machines. We have the love of humanity and of a community of good faith in our hearts. Building an ark and a tabernacle are holy not because of the physical spaces created, but because of the connections, empathy, care, and devotion we build with one another. Exodus 25, verse 17 states, "And you shall make an ark cover of pure gold." But as we have found out in our history, material wealth, arks, tabernacles, and so on all rise up, but are merely physical and not eternal. What may endure, however, is our faith, which raises not just buildings, but a community of love, compassion, and concern. These values have transcended and will continue to transcend generations of our people and be our ark for future generations. Lidor Vador. Thank you.